then I'm going to screen share. All right, let us begin. Can you see that? Oh, you're all muted. Sharon, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see it?
Yep, thumbs up.
Okay, thank you. I'm like, oh no, they can't see it. All right, so good. All right, well, first I just want to start by thanking you all for being here this evening and sharing this time with me. It is actually Thanksgiving here in the US and on Maui, and I am so grateful to be sharing my Thanksgiving with you so that we can talk a little bit about how to stay safer in the EMF age. Well, for me, things started back in 2009 when my book came out, Endless Energy, The Essential Guide to Energy Health. And I had a section in this book on the dangers of wireless radiation, along with some tips about how to protect yourself. So I've been aware of the dangers of wireless radiation for over a decade and have been educating people and advocating for safe technology. And more recently, I formed a coalition called keepyourpower.org. And we are a coalition of concerned Hawaii residents. We are concerned about the proliferation of wireless radiation, and we advocate for safe technology. And we've had some nice successes here. And so I invite you to check out our website, and if you'd like, you can consider signing our petition and joining us. Many people from all over the world care about the Hawaiian Islands. Many people visit here from all over the world. Many people from all over own property here. And if that applies to you, then please check it out. So I'm going to be talking a lot about electromagnetic radiation, and it's sometimes also called EMR, which stands for electromagnetic radiation. Sometimes it's also called EMF, electromagnetic fields or electromagnetic frequencies. Sometimes it's called RFR, which stands for radio frequency radiation, or sometimes just RF, radio frequencies. And for me, if I hear about frequencies and fields, it sounds so gentle and nice. So I'm going to be using the term wireless radiation or electromagnetic radiation because this is radiation. And most of what I'm going to be talking about this evening refers to microwave frequency radiation, radiation that is in that frequency range. Back in 2009, when my book came out, I published this number in the book that electromagnetic radiation increased 1 million billion times in this brief little 5-year window from 2003 to 2007. Another way of saying that number is 1 quadrillion. And that was back in 2007. And this number tends to grow exponentially because if you think back to 2007, well, maybe you had a cordless phone, which emits radiation. Maybe you had a cell phone, but since then you probably also now have maybe a tablet or an iPad. Maybe you have a Fitbit. Maybe you have some wireless speakers that work on Bluetooth, and on it goes. And every time you add another device to your arsenal, you are contributing to this increase in electromagnetic radiation. And we can only imagine what this number is at this point, because obviously things have changed since 2007. Right now, there are over 5 billion cell phones on the planet. Many people still have cordless phones in their homes. We have computers and laptops and tablets. We have a proliferation of cell towers and antennas. In the US alone, there are almost 3 million cell towers and antennas, and that does not include 5G small cells, which are a relatively new arrival. There's a lot more Bluetooth being used now and Wi-Fi just about everywhere. So we are living in a wireless world. We are literally swimming in a sea of wireless radiation pretty much constantly. So what does the relevant research show? Should we be concerned? Well, at this point in time, there is over 10,000 peer-reviewed studies showing clinical evidence of sick and injured people, experimental evidence of DNA damage, tumors, damage to cells and organ systems, and not only in humans, but also in plants and animals, because this type of radiation also affects the environment. And there's plenty of epidemiological evidence showing cancer, heart disease, and diabetes. The bottom line is that electromagnetic radiation is harmful to all life forms. Let's look a little deeper into this. Well, the United States National Institutes of Health National Toxicology Program did one of the most comprehensive studies on cell phone radiation. The thing cost $25 million. It took 10 years to complete, and the results showed a clear link between wireless radiation and cancer, heart damage, and damage to our DNA. And when your DNA is being damaged, there's a whole array of different health effects. That study, by the way, has been replicated in Italy, showing the same results. The World Health Organization has classified wireless radiation as a class 2B possible carcinogen. It's in the same category as DDT, lead, asbestos, chloroform, carbon monoxide. Would you knowingly expose yourself to any of these things? I hope the answer is no. Health experts from over 240 countries are warning about the negative health effects of wireless radiation. And if you look at your cell phone user manual, you will see in the fine print under the legal section that it says in order to use your cell phone safely, you have to keep the phone at least 1/4 of an inch off your body. And most user manuals actually say 1/2 inch. Why is that? Because they know that wireless radiation is harmful. Distance is your friend. And if you're having a phone in contact with your body, you are in for some consequences. The insurance industry will not cover health effects from wireless radiation. They categorize the unforeseen consequences of this type of radiation as a high impact casualty. What do they know that we don't? Basically, we're human guinea pigs. In the US, the FCC, which is the governing agency here for wireless radiation, the safety limits have not been updated since 1992, and they're based on science from the 1980s. Did cell phones even exist in the 1980s? There was no such thing as Wi-Fi in the 1980s. Do you think things have changed? And I don't think it's any better in Canada, by the way. 9 countries have lower exposure limits than the US, and Canada is not one of them. Thousands of peer-reviewed scientific studies document the biological effects of this type of radiation, and we know that it has cumulative, compound, long-term effects. In other words, the longer you're exposed to it, the more dangerous it becomes. We also know that this type of wireless radiation is especially harmful to children. There's very, very strong research supporting that. Wireless radiation has been linked to all kinds of nasty health effects, ranging from brain tumors, dementia, memory loss, to cardiac dysfunction, leukemia, again, damage to your DNA, immune disruption, anxiety and depression, reproductive harm, cancers of all varieties, insomnia, behavior disruption, cell damage, breaching of the blood-brain barrier, and changes in our brain waves. And in addition to these more biological effects, there's also neurobehavioral symptoms that have been well documented. And this research is showing those type of symptoms near cell towers, but people who have what's called electrosensitivity, or sometimes called electrohypersensitivity, which I think is a misnomer, because just because you can feel this, it doesn't mean that you're hypersensitive. It just means that you can feel things that are harmful and some other people can't. So the neurobehavioral symptoms include more subtle symptoms like fatigue, sleep disturbance, headaches, a general feeling of discomfort, difficulty concentrating, depression, memory loss, visual disruptions, irritability, hearing disruptions. And that's a really interesting one because I myself experienced what I would call microwave sickness. I use that term, and many of us do, instead of saying, you know, sensitivity. I experienced it when I was living in a condominium complex and being irradiated by my neighbor's Wi-Fi. And one of my main symptoms was a hearing disruption. Tinnitus is a common symptom, but I wasn't experiencing ringing in the ears like tinnitus. What I was experiencing was some kind of other sound phenomena, really difficult to describe, but pervasive and extremely annoying. Skin problems are another symptom, cardiovascular problems, dizziness, loss of appetite, movement difficulties, nausea. And there's also people who experience burning or electrical sensations or tingling in their body when they're exposed to cell phone radiation or Wi-Fi radiation, basically microwave radiation. Recently, the state of New Hampshire released a report that was mandated by law because they passed a law last year requiring a commission be formed to study the health and environmental effects of 5G radiation. The report is almost 400 pages long. Well, actually, the report itself is 17 pages long, and all of the other hundreds of pages are research citations, references, documentation supporting the recommendations that were made by the commission. And 3 of the recommendations are that state agencies should include wireless radiation warnings on their websites. Antennas should be set back away from residences, businesses, and schools. And this is kind of the opposite of often what happens because telecom companies actually target schools and businesses to put towers and antennas on their property or antennas and on top of the buildings of schools and businesses. And because of course, there's money to be made. People get paid for housing towers and antennas on their property. And a third recommendation, third of many, was that we all need to migrate away from wireless connections and go hardwired instead. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. If you want to learn more about the research, particularly on human health effects, you can check out BioInitiative 2012. The website is bioinitiative.org. This is a massive document that was compiled by 29 authors from 10 different countries, 10 MDs and 21 PhDs, and they have poured over almost 2,000 research studies and come to the conclusion that the wireless radiation safety levels are set too high. We're being exposed to way too much radiation. The levels have to be lowered in order to protect human health. And this document is being constantly updated. So I highly recommend it. It's super comprehensive and really easy to navigate. You could also check out the Celatune scientific statement, which was 7 scientists from 5 nations came to the same conclusion that our exposure levels are way too high and must be lowered. There's also this research from the FCC's own website. 6 doctors, almost 300 studies, same conclusion. The safety limits are too high and should be lowered in order to protect human health. Or you can check out the work of Michael Bevington, almost 2,000 research studies, same conclusion. We're being exposed to too much. The safety levels need to be lowered. They're too high. And if you're interested in the topic, I highly recommend the book by Arthur Furstenberg, The Invisible Rainbow. This book is encyclopedic, and it's just an extraordinary effort on the part of Arthur. And Arthur's conclusion is that the safe level of exposure to wireless radiation is 0. In other words, there is no safe level. So you might be asking yourself, well, if this is so bad, Deborah, then why is our government not protecting us? Well, the answer is because we're not asking them to. Many of us tend to think that wireless radiation must be safe because it's everywhere. And well, it's just not true. You don't have to look too far back in history to see evidence of this. This is Time magazine, June 1947, saying that exhaustive tests have shown that when properly used, DDT is a benefactor of all humanity. Fortunately, we know better now. And then in the 1950s, we had the X-ray machines in shoe stores. These things were everywhere. The idea was, you try on a pair of shoes, you stick your feet inside the X-ray machine, it X-rays your feet in that particular pair of shoes, and then you can see how the shoes fit you. And people would try on multiple pairs of shoes and just get X-rays over and over again. Kids used to play in these machines. They'd stick their hands in there, they'd stick their heads in there. Fortunately, we know better now. And then, of course, there's tobacco. Everybody's smoking cigarettes, Santa Claus smoking cigarettes, babies smoking cigarettes, doctors recommending that people smoke cigarettes. My best friend's mother was told by her physician to smoke cigarettes during her pregnancy. She was told that it would help her with her pregnancy. And then dentists got in on the act, and of course there was plenty of scientific evidence showing that the effects of smoking were positive. Thankfully, we know better now. But how did this happen? Well, there's a time lag that happens from when a new technology or product is brought onto the market to when enough scientific research can be amassed showing whether that product is safe or not. And if the product is shown to be harmful, there's another time lag between when government regulation can actually be enacted in order to protect people. And corporations are extremely well aware of this time lag, and they often do things to exploit it. It's called the tobacco playbook, and it goes like this. Step number 1, create a highly addictive product. And cell phones are created to be highly addictive. And I would venture to guess that most of us on this call tonight are addicted to our cell phones. And one of the aspects of addiction is denial. So I really want you to keep that in mind as I go through the rest of the presentation. So step number 1, create a highly addictive product. Step number 2, if there's any research showing that that product is harmful, you must hide it. You must not allow that research to be published. And you can, if it happens to be published, you discredit the opposing researchers, or you prevent it from being published in the first place by paying off researchers, or not only paying them off to not publish, but also paying off other researchers to publish research in your favor. And then you take over the regulating agencies, which has absolutely happened here in the US with the FCC. It's completely captured by the industry that it's supposed to be regulating. And finally, you pour on the propaganda to the public, and you convince them that they cannot possibly live without whatever your product is. And big telecom is following the tobacco playbook and even spicing it up. There's a lot of money to be made in that time lag that I've described. And there's many, many examples of this. The most recent examples are vaping and opioids. In the case of big telecom, there are literally trillions of dollars at stake. It's an extremely, extremely lucrative market right now. Another aspect of not being protected is that guidelines are based on outdated science. Wireless radiation is called non-ionizing because it's a very low energy radiation. And so the understanding is that because it's low energy, because it's non-ionizing, this radiation is harmless until our tissue actually starts heating up. It's as if there is no difference between a human being and a roast cooking in a microwave oven. I'm here to tell you that you are not a piece of meat. There's a huge difference between a living, breathing human being and a roast cooking in a microwave oven. But it is to the advantage of big telecom to continue with this outdated science when there's plenty of science showing that there's a myriad of changes that happen to living beings before their tissue begins to cook. To use a really vivid example, if you put a lab rat into a microwave oven and turn it on, eventually that lab rat will die. It's true. It will begin to cook and it will die. But that will happen over time, and there is a multiplicity of changes happening inside that lab rat on a neurophysiological level that are extremely detrimental and painful and debilitating. So we cannot look at tissue heating as our only determinant of whether this radiation is harming us or not. But that's the reality right now. What can we do about it? Well, I hope that you will all contact your legislative representatives and tell them that you don't want any more cell towers and antennas. Tell them that wireless radiation is harmful, but that's another topic for a different presentation. Let's talk about what you can do inside your home. Just like we practice safe sex methods, we need to practice safe cell methods. That's right. And just like sex is not for kids, the cell phone is not for kids. Children should not be using cell phones. There's plenty of support for this notion that children are much more harmed by wireless radiation because of their developmental stages. So, and not only is a cell phone not for kids, but they're starting to make a lot of children's toys now that emit wireless radiation. So please don't go there. You know, the holidays are upon us. Don't buy your kids cell phones. Don't buy them, you know, gadgets and devices that emit wireless radiation. It is extremely toxic and harmful to them. Please keep your cell phone off your body. I've seen way too many women carrying cell phones in their bras. And I mean, it's a very, very bad idea. And guys tend to keep their cell phone in the front pants pocket right next to the family jewels. Again, it's a very bad idea. There's very strong research showing a correlation between wireless radiation and reproductive harm. So keep the phone off your body. You know, use a purse, a backpack, a man bag, a briefcase, whatever. You can also keep the cell phone off your body by using speaker mode. Whatever you do, please don't hold the phone next to your brain, next to your head. Do not do it. Use speaker mode, text instead of talk. Then you're keeping the phone, you know, further away from you. Please minimize your cell phone use. A cell phone should never be your primary or only phone. Your primary phone should be a corded landline, and the cell phone should be a sort of backup. Also avoid other people's cells. You know, if you won't let somebody smoke inside your house, consider telling them to turn off their cell phone when they come inside your house. And please don't use your cell phone in the car. This is a big problem because many people, when they're commuting or they're out running errands, they're like, oh, I'm in the car, I have a spare moment, let me call so-and-so. Well, remember, we're talking about microwave frequency radiation here. And if you own a microwave oven, you probably know that you're not supposed to put something in it. What you're not supposed to put in a microwave oven is metal, right? How come we don't put metal in a microwave oven? Because microwaves cannot penetrate metal. And it's the same with the microwave frequencies of a cell phone. So if you are using a cell phone inside a car, you're basically pulling those microwaves inside the car, and they then bounce around inside the car because your car is basically a metal box, right? Metal on four sides. And it ends up turning your car into a mobile microwave oven with you on the inside. So cell phones become much more dangerous when you use them inside cars. Airplane mode is your friend. So it's a very, very easy way for you to put your phone in and out of a safety mode. Airplane mode was invented to keep our cell phones from interfering with the airplane's takeoff and landing, which should give you a hint or a clue about how powerful they are. But at any rate, when you put your phone in airplane mode, which on most phones is very easy to do, on most phones, and again, I can't talk about every single phone and every single operating system, but on most phones, when you put your phone in airplane mode, it cuts the signals, it cancels the signals, it turns off cellular, it turns off Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, hotspot, location services, all of that stuff gets turned off. And on some phones, instead of just airplane mode, you'll want to actually go into your settings, which is another way to do this, and turn those things off. So you can do it in settings, or you can just put your phone in airplane mode and take care of many of these things at once. However, if you only use airplane mode, your phone will tend to default back to turning Wi-Fi on and Bluetooth on and so forth. So you're going to have to keep checking, you know, is all that stuff really off or not? Whereas if you turn off those things from the settings option, they tend to stay off more permanently. And most of these things should be turned off even when you're using your phone. If you're not using Wi-Fi, turn it off. If you're not using Bluetooth, turn it off. If you're not using a hotspot, turn it off. If you're not using location services, turn it off. Because each one of these things emits an additional layer of radiation. And we do have to pay attention to secondhand radiation because, you know, in using an active cell phone, you're exposing the people around you, especially if you're in a car. Or I've also seen, you know, parents pushing baby strollers with infants in the stroller, and they'll stick their cell phone in the stroller with the baby. That's a really bad idea. And we also have to think about our pets, because our pets obviously are living creatures and they are negatively affected by this type of radiation, just like the rest of us. Wireless bad, wires are good. If you have a cordless phone in your home right now, my best advice is to get rid of it and replace it with the good old-fashioned corded phone. And yes, you can still get these. People are starting to buy them more and more because people are starting to wake up to what's going on. So you want an old-fashioned corded phone. And this corded landline should be your primary phone. And if you have one at your home, when you get home, you can very easily forward your cell to your landline, and you won't miss any calls that way. All of your cell calls will simply roll over to your landline. It's very seamless and easy. Nobody will even know. And if you have a corded landline at your office, as soon as you get to the office, you can forward your cell phone to your landline at your office. And most phones, in the settings, you can do call forwarding very, very easily. And if for some reason you cannot locate that on your cell phone, the call forwarding option, then call your cell phone service provider. And I think it's TELUS and maybe Rogers are the two cell phone providers there. Correct me if I'm wrong later, please. But you contact them and ask them, how can I forward my cell phone? We want wires. We want wires. Wires are our friends. And the same thing goes for your computer, whether it's a desktop or a laptop. You want it to be wired. You want it to be hardwired. And to do that, you just locate your router, that box, and you get yourself a shielded Ethernet cable, which I'm going to show you in a moment. You may or may not need an Ethernet switch. It depends on how many people in your household there are and how many computers you want to hardwire. If you have a lot of computers in different workstations, or if you have one in the bedroom and the office or whatever, you might need a switch. If not, you can keep it simple. You'll need a couple of adapters, which I'll show you in a moment. And you need to turn the Wi-Fi off on the router and on the computer, okay? And I'm going to go more into detail with that in a moment. But I'm going to stay here and just on this slide and say that many people are under the false impression that if you want to use a laptop or a desktop computer, that you have to use Wi-Fi. It is absolutely not true. Wi-Fi is not necessary. In fact, not only is it not necessary, but if you hardwire your computer with an Ethernet cable instead of using Wi-Fi, your signal will be stronger, it will be more secure, less hackable, and it will be safer for you. And you won't be dropping in and out of Zoom calls or when you're live streaming movies or whatever, because hardwiring with an Ethernet cable gives you a lot better connection. Why do gamers, people who do online gaming, they only ever use hardwired computers. They will never use Wi-Fi, ever, because it's actually a really bad way to connect to the internet. It's unreliable, it drops in and out, it's slow. So if you want faster, safer, more reliable internet, please do what I'm about to show you. It's very simple and easy. So on your computer, there will be a Wi-Fi symbol somewhere. Now it's different on different computers, but these are the general symbols that are used to display a Wi-Fi connection on most computers. So you want to find the Wi-Fi symbol on your computer, whether it's a Macintosh, an Apple product, or a PC, and you want to click on the symbol. And when you do that, there will probably be a drop-down menu, and one of the options will be to turn Wi-Fi off. So, turning Wi-Fi on and off on your computer should be relatively simple and easy by just clicking on the Wi-Fi symbol. Now, if you want to hardwire your computer, after you do it, there's two turn-offs, right? You have to turn off the Wi-Fi on the computer, and you also have to turn off the Wi-Fi at the router. And, well, let me back up a step. Locate the router in your home. You will have one if you're on the internet. It's a box. And some homes will have two boxes. They'll have a modem and a router, and in some cases the modem and the router are together and there's only one box. So you want to locate the box that is the router, because that's where the Wi-Fi is. And you want to look examine the box and see if there is a button with one of these symbols on it where you can turn on and off the Wi-Fi by pushing the button. That's easy. If you look at your router box and you don't see a button, or maybe you'll see only one button, which is the power switch, right? The switch to the power, but there's no button to turn the Wi-Fi on and off, which is very common, by the way, then you have to take another step to turn the Wi-Fi off at the router. Because if you don't do that, the router is going to continue to emit wireless radiation because it's going to keep signaling and looking for something to connect to, like your computer or your phone. So you want to turn off the Wi-Fi on the computer, and if you can't easily turn it off on the router itself, you can't turn off the Wi-Fi on the router itself, you're going to have to call your internet service provider, which again is probably TELUS and Rogers. And you can just say, I want to turn off my Wi-Fi, how do I do that? Or they're probably going to give you what's called an IP address. And it will be a series of numbers, probably very similar to the numbers that you see there on the screen. And you're going to type those numbers into your computer browser, and it will bring you to your online router interface. I know this is a lot of information. I hope I haven't overwhelmed you, but it's time for show and tell. So before I move into show and tell, I'm just going to say that my coalition is keepyourpower.org. And if you would like to go there, sign our petitions, opt into our email list. And if you are benefiting from what you're hearing, please consider a small donation. All right, that's my email address. So I'm going to stop the screen share. And hi, everybody. I'm going to go to show and tell. What should we look at first? Okay, so one thing that you can do if you're, concerned about these things is you can buy yourself a meter that measures this type of radiation. There are different meters on the market. I have meters of all varieties. I have even more over there. This is my favorite meter, a Safe and Sound Pro 2. I'm not affiliated with any of these meter people, by the way, just so you know. This meter is a little bit pricey. It's about $385 US, and then there's probably some shipping on top of that. So the device is called the Safe and Sound Pro 2. Can you see that? Okay. So it's my favorite meter because it's very most of these meters are user-friendly. Well, actually, this one is not too user-friendly, by the way. But many of them are. It's basically turn it on, point and shoot, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my meter, and I'm going to turn down the volume because I don't want it to be interfering right now with what I'm saying. But meters such as the ones that I have shown you, these are calibrated to health effects, okay? They are not calibrated to the FCC guidelines. They are calibrated to health effects. And that's a very important thing because you want to know if your health is being harmed. And these meters will tell you that. Whereas if you get other kinds of meters that are calibrated to like FCC guidelines, they are not going to tell you that because the guidelines are outdated, they're obsolete, okay? So they're not protecting us, right? I hope I made that point, if nothing else. So it's time to take matters into your own hands. And these meters are calibrated to health effects. On this particular meter, anything 10 and above is harmful, is showing that you're in the danger zone, okay? So I've turned the meter on, and you can see the kind of readings that we're getting. It's like 4 point something something, right? And okay, did you see that okay? I mean, they're fluctuating a lot, but you know, I have a very low EMF environment here. So I'm well below the 10, number 10, which is the danger zone. So what I'm going to do is, I've turned on the volume now, because this meter will give you audio feedback if you want it to. Can you hear the audio feedback a little bit? So this is my cell phone. My cell phone, as I hope you can see, is in airplane mode right now. And I basically keep my cell phone in airplane mode a lot of the time. So I'll show you, my phone is in airplane mode, okay? And, you know, on an iPhone, you can swipe up. You can just swipe up and put it in airplane mode, in and out as you need it. So my phone is in airplane mode. I have my meter here. I have my meter turned on. So, and you can see, or I hope you can see, that the reading I'm getting is like, you know, 2 point something, 1 point something. I'm pointing at my phone, you know, I'm getting very, very low readings because my phone is in airplane mode. It's not emitting, which is a good thing. Okay, so I'm going to take my phone out of airplane mode and let's see what happens. All right. Can you hear that? So the phone is now out of airplane mode, and I'm getting, well, I'm going to show you the readings that I'm getting. Sorry, I've got text messages and stuff coming in. Can you see that? Sharon, can you tell me if you can read it or not? Can't read it. Okay. You can hear it? All right. I'm just going to put the volume down. I wish you guys could see this. So this meter measures 3 different parameters, but it measures peak, max, and average. And the peak and the average fluctuate a lot, but the max, this meter is designed to grab on to the highest reading and hold it for you so that you can see, you know, the extreme level, because a lot of times these levels will fluctuate. It's not like a steady thing, which ends up being more harmful to us. I mean, if it was emitting like a steady signal, the human body can adapt to so many steady kinds of things. But if the signals are erratic and changing all the time, our system has a much harder time with that. It ends up being more harmful. It's like the difference between, you know, white noise versus random loud blasts of noise, and you have no idea when it's coming. I'm sorry that you can't see the numbers. I wish you could. I will read it to you. The max, this is like off the freaking charts. The max is 1,450,000. That was the highest that happened when I took my phone out of airplane mode. Right now, with the phone sitting here, I'm not really doing anything with it. I'm not like texting or checking my emails. I'm getting peak readings that are in like the 10,000s. So let's see what happens when I check my email. Let's check the email. Level that was 63,000, 36,000, 36,100, 7,000, 60,700. It's fluctuating all over the place. 24,000, 11,300. Anyway, have I made my point? Okay. So my point is that simply by using a phone in the normal way that most people use their phones. I mean, I didn't even turn on Bluetooth. I didn't even turn on Wi-Fi. That's simply the cellular data with those types of readings. If I were to turn on Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, it would ramp up even higher. Because again, it just keeps adding. It just keeps adding more and more radiation, the more type of functionality you have going on the phone. So I'm going to put my phone back in airplane mode because I'm tired of being irradiated. What else do I want to show you for show and tell? So one of the things that you can do is you can get a headset, a special kind of headset. And it's called hollow tube headset. And this is what a hollow tube headset looks like. It basically looks like a normal headset. I mean, I got one with this earpiece on it, but this is just an earbud, you know, like a normal, you can get just earbuds if you want. And you can get, you know, the dual one or whatever. So what's special about this headset is that basically you plug it into your phone, the radiation travels up the copper wire, but then there's this little section of the headset that is cut out, and that it's hollow. It's a hollow tube, like a doctor's stethoscope. So the sound is able to travel, but the radiation gets interrupted. So a hollow tube headset is a very good idea. These are not expensive. They run maybe $30 or $40, something like that. And using a hollow tube headset will allow you to keep the phone further away from your body when you're talking on the phone. So that's you know, an additional thing that you can do. Another thing that you can do is you can actually hardwire your phone. And you can do that by getting, this is an Ethernet cable. I was talking earlier about Ethernet cable and how it's your friend. I mean, they call these things a cable. Do you see how thin this is? It's like a ribbon, you know? When I think of cable, I think of like big honking thing, but these aren't like that. You know, to me, this is like an Ethernet ribbon or an Ethernet cord, they should be called. Anyway, it's a flexible, you know, thing. And this is one end of it, and the other end is identical. It goes to Ethernet. So you can have one end of this hooked into your router, and you can't possibly plug it in the wrong place because it'll only fit where it fits. And your router, you know, probably has multiple Ethernet ports on it. They'll be in a line. So one end goes into the router. My router is over there. And the other end of this goes into this adapter. So this adapter has Ethernet. And then because I have an iPhone, this is called Lightning. It's a Lightning plug. So one end goes into Ethernet and the other end goes into the phone. Ta-da! And then my phone is still in airplane mode, but I can still do things on my phone. Sorry, you don't need to read all my text messages, but for example, I can check email, I can respond to email, I can surf the web, I can live stream movies on my phone. I can still do a lot of things in airplane mode with an Ethernet cable hooked up to my router. And, you know, we're talking about very low, if any, emission from EMF, right? What you cannot do on your phone when you're hooked up to Ethernet in airplane, you will not get phone calls. They'll go to voicemail, and you cannot get text messages. But what I do is I have my text messages come into my computer, and my computer is hardwired. I do not use Wi-Fi. I have not used Wi-Fi in, I don't know what, a decade. I just don't use it. And again, it's, you know, it's faster, it's safer, it's more secure, it's better quality internet connection when you are not using Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is a really, you know, crappy connection. So if you want to hardwire your computer, how do you do it? Well, you get yourself the good old Ethernet cable, and you get an adapter, and Ethernet goes in one end, and then you just plug the other end into your, this is my laptop. You plug the other end into your laptop, and that's it. You have, you don't need to use Wi-Fi on your computer because you've got your internet connection right here. It's hooked up to your router. And, you know, my router, I have the Wi-Fi turned off. So no Wi-Fi needed, no emissions needed. I thought I might show you the IP address interface. Is it too much? Do it or not, Sharon? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, let's take questions.
Yeah, there's lots of questions, love.
Okay.
Lots of questions. I guess I'll just start at the top. Maureen was asking about tingling in the body as a symptom of
And it is, yes.
irradiation.
It's a very,
so it's common.
It's quite a common symptom connected with wireless radiation exposure, yes. Yep.
And is there any way that we would determine that it's from wireless radiation and not something else? Is there something?
Get rid of, just shut off your phone, shut off your Wi-Fi for a few days and see what happens. You know,
okay.
When you have your neighbor's Wi-Fi coming into your house, we get 4 or 5 other people's Wi-Fi that I can't control.
Are you in a house or a condo?
We're in a house.
And
people have extenders on their, you know, I can see that they have extenders, or
I don't know what an extender is, but
I think it just gives them a more powerful signal. And so
well, they might have that. You might be mistaking that with a microwave dish or a satellite dish for TV or something. But anyway, unless you go into their home and you can see things, is that what you mean? It's inside their home?
No, I just see it on when I put on my cell phone.
Okay, so point number one, just because somebody's Wi-Fi shows up on your phone or your computer, it does not mean that you're being harmed by it.
Okay.
So, you know, we do have way too much radiation, and obviously these routers are completely overbuilt. I mean, there's no reason for your neighbor's Wi-Fi to be reaching into your house. It's just ridiculous how overbuilt all of this technology is. It's absolutely ridiculous. So, but do not assume that because their Wi-Fi is showing up on your phone or computer that you're being harmed by it, because you're probably not, especially if you're in a home. If you're in a condo complex, that's a different story. But most of the time, you know, the houses, there's enough distance in between them with the setbacks and stuff. So at any rate, you know, my advice to you would be to shut off all of the sources of wireless radiation in your home, and for, you know, several days at least, and see if you notice any difference in the tingling and stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Next question is around turning off Wi-Fi. So would you recommend turning it off at night, for example?
Absolutely. And, you know, turning off at night is a great idea, and it's easy to do because just unplug it. You don't even have to mess around with, oh, there's a button and there's no IP address and I have to log in. Just don't even think about that. Just unplug it at night.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any counsel around all these devices we're now seeing, the Harmony device, the Q device, all these things that if we wear them on our body, they are purported to reduce the harm? And
it's a free-for-all. I mean, it's completely unregulated. And I mean, back in the day, you know, 10, you know, 15 years ago when I got involved in this, there were only a handful of companies that were making, you know, protective devices. And now it's like every time I turn around, there's a new protective device out there. I can't keep up with it, nor do I want to. All I would say is buyer beware. And if you're gonna invest in some kind of protective device, make sure that they have actual evidential research on their website that shows demonstratively evidence that their device works.
Okay.
And, you know, don't just go by, oh, well, everybody's saying it's great. You know, don't go by the reviewers. Don't just go by the, you know, company's word for it. You need to look for research. And if they don't have any research on their website, don't buy it. That's my advice.
Thank
Don't
you.
waste your money. Some of them
So-
do work though. I mean, some of them are really good. Even the ones that are scalar waves and you know, not detectable on a physical level, they do actually work, some of them. So sympathetic
Steve?
resonance technology, all that stuff. I mean, some of them do work, but there's way too many out there for me to talk about. And when it comes to shielding, actual shielding, like physical, you know, barrier methods, what I would call, you have to be very, very, very careful if you're going to start using shielding. Because remember, I said microwaves can't penetrate metal, right? So yes, you can put up shielding fabrics or you know, whatever, and they're going to block a signal from coming in. But if you're on the other side of that and you happen to turn on your cell phone or put Wi-Fi on your computer, or a friend comes over with a live cell phone, you can very easily create hotspots and create situations inside your home that are actually very harmful. So you have to be really careful about shielding.
Okay. Devika, if you could just clarify, we've got a few questions and mine was one of them as well. When you showed us the device, which was fascinating, measuring your cell phone, and you said that it's calibrated to health effects. So there's confusion around it needs to be 10 or under to be safe. What is a health effect? How is that calibrated? What are these different?
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, oh, how to answer that question? Most of the meters that are calibrated to health effects use either the BioInitiative 2012, which I showed you, that website, almost 2,000 research studies. And so, I mean, the research is showing us what is a healthy, you know, exposure and what isn't. And so the meters that are calibrated to health effects are calibrated to, I don't know if, I mean, I feel bad that you couldn't really even see this meter, but it has like slight, moderate, high, and extreme. And, and there's lights that correspond to that, and then the actual readings in the window there. And so, you know, if the meter is showing green for slight, you're getting less than 10 microwatts per meter squared of exposure. And then it goes up from there. And so, you know, the BioInitiative 2012 gave us the levels that are safe and where it begins to be harmful and when it becomes really super harmful. And another organization that has a lot of expertise in the biological effects is an organization called Building Biology. And the building biologists, the Institute was formed because of sick building syndrome. I don't know if you've heard of sick building syndrome, but it has a lot to do with people who have chemical sensitivity and things like that. And then more recently, the building biologists have been studying EMF and health effects. And some of the meters that are calibrated to health effects use the building biology guidelines, and they're very similar to the BioInitiative folks. It's not like, you know, they're completely different or off. Does that help?
So if I just try to clarify what I understood, that these meters are measuring microwatts per meter squared. They're measuring
That's
the
the unit
frequency.
that they measure in, yes.
And basically, when with the scale inside the meter, the device is just telling us you're okay here. It's from here on up, you're too high, and here you're off the chart.
Exactly.
Okay,
That's
so simplified, the meter is measuring the microwatts per meter squared.
Yes.
And
That's
so
the
when
unit
your
of
device
measurement.
comes close to it, you know. And so what you were saying earlier then is if our cell phone is not only on and we're getting data, but we also have Wi-Fi on and we also have Bluetooth on, we are getting more microwatts per meter squared.
You're getting more
But those
exposure, yeah.
more exposure, and that exposure is different wavelengths. So it's like this chaos of different invisible
Exactly.
wavelengths
Yes.
that are affecting all the tissues of our body and our brain.
Much more than tissues, but yes. We're electrical in nature, basically.
Yes.
And so it's not just tissues at all.
All the subtle body
I
also.
mean, that's the problem, is they only look at the tissue, and like if you're not cooking, you're fine. Well, it ain't true. So anyway, does that help?
That helped.
Okay.
So the next then is about fiber optics. And we talked a little bit about this earlier. It is a fast and supposedly safer wireless technology. Is it safer?
Yes, fiber optics. Fiber is our friend. Yep. And the thing with fiber optics is that it's the backbone of all of our current wireless. Because if you have a tower or an antenna underground, it's hooked up to fiber optics. The fiber optics runs underground, and it's the web that's holding, all these towers and antennas together. And what we want SafeG. You can look up safeg.net if you want to learn more about that. We want fiber to the premises. We want fiber to the home. We want fiber to the building. So if instead of putting up these towers and antennas and spraying out this toxic wireless radiation 24/7, 365, killing everything in sight, pardon my exaggeration, instead of doing that, could you please just give us fiber optics, the fiber optic cable to the home, to the business, and then inside the privacy of my own home, if I want to irradiate myself, I can do that. But if I don't, I have my fiber optics, which is really safe. It's light, right? Primarily. So yeah, we want fiber optics. We just want more of it.
Well, TELUS is promoted fiber optics in a very big way, and a lot of us have fiber optics. So it's really interesting that it's the fiber directly into the house and the building that makes it safer and means that we have less wireless radiation.
Yeah, well, good for them. Our Hawaiian Telcom is doing the same thing over here. I mean, I think they're starting to realize that people are waking up,
Do batteries give off electromagnetic radiation?
Yes, they do. Anything electrical does. Anything. Yes.
And is there anything we should know, like, in terms of that? Maggie, did you want to jump in here?
You know what? I mean, I'd really like to stick to this topic of
wireless
radiation, because if we start going into electrical fields and magnetic fields, I mean, it's a whole different thing. And yes, those are dangerous at a certain level. If you get too much exposure to electrical fields or magnetic fields, it's not good for you. It's not.
Yeah.
And that's about as much as I want to say about that. But anything electrical is going to emit.
Okay, and somebody was just questioning, you don't have earbuds on, you just have a headset on?
No, I do. I have these. And they're probably questioning it because I was saying, use a hollow tube headset. But please remember, I have no Wi-Fi. There's nothing radiating me here.
Aha.
This is completely safe. I'm hardwired.
Okay,
yep.
That's why.
Exactly. I mean, if you're not exposing yourself to radiation, you can use whatever headset you want. I was recommending the hollow tube for the cell phone because, if you're using a cell phone, you're probably, you know, getting irradiated. But I don't have to worry about radiation because my computer is hardwired and, you know, my cell phone is in airplane mode. So I'm safe with my earbuds. The
Okay.
things that are really awful are the earbuds. You know, those little things that are anything wireless. Like, so, I mean, you know, when people take those earbuds, which it basically looks like this, right? And there's no wire, and they insert it into their ears, the radiation is going straight into the brain. There's no cranial bones, there's no skull, nothing protecting at all. It's like really one of the worst things that you could possibly do is wear those earbuds. Wires are our friends. Hardwire. I thought about making like a public service announcement that would say something like, "We like it hard." Wired, that is.
Okay, so we have a question around several devices in the same home. So really what I hear in this is how we become so used to the convenience of wireless technology. We're all hooked on it now. So listening to you now and recognizing, well, it's the same thing I talked about. You know, I have someone in the home that's also counting on this wireless device. So it's a matter of being able to hardwire all of the devices to be more safe.
And in that case, you need a switch. You need an Ethernet switch. And then you can just, you know, you can have your various Ethernet ribbons coming in from various locations, feeding into the switch, which is then hooked up to your router.
Are there any other simple things like, for example, do salt lamps reduce radiation? Is there anything that we can have in our field, in our homes that?
You know, the Himalayan pink crystal salt lamps are said to help counter. But the thing is like, it's a false sense of security because people think, okay, I just have to get a few salt lamps and I'm fine. And then I can use my cell phone and my Wi-Fi and everything is great. And it's not. There is, you know, I mean, you can, sure, that stuff helps. It does help, but it's not going to make you safe. I'm sad to say. I have a beautiful, you know, crystal lamp myself. I love that stuff. But, you know, I mean, we have to stop using these types of devices and technology. The more we stop using them, then they won't have an excuse to put up towers and antennas. And, you know, that's the solution. We have to overcome our addiction. And it will be a little bit inconvenient because you'll have, you know, an Ethernet cord running somewhere under the rug, or, you know, maybe it's not going to look nice. But, you know, what does it matter if everything looks great and you're dead? Okay. What does it matter? You know, what does it matter if everything looks nice and it's convenient and I can take my laptop anywhere in my house, but I'm dying of cancer? What are your priorities? I'm sorry.
Okay. Someone was searching for the meter to just check out the meter that you showed us and couldn't find anything. So is it maybe possible for you to
Safe and
send?
Sound Pro 2?
Yeah, I think that's what they were looking for. I'm not sure, love, but that's the one you showed us.
Well,
so I'm
it's
assuming
a really
that's the one.
popular meter, and I can't believe they can't find it. It's really popular. But anyway.
We can send an email out with a few links or something, yeah?
Yep.
Do baby monitors emit EMFs?
Absolutely, if it's wireless. If it's a wireless baby monitor, not all of them are. Many of them are. You can get hardwired baby monitors, and that's what you should be using. Using a wireless baby monitor is a really bad idea. It just breaks my heart. It just absolutely breaks my heart. And when I was living in the condo that I had to move away from because I was getting irradiated, my next door neighbors with whom I shared a wall, you know, had a baby, and they got a baby monitor from hell. And I mean, I tested the thing, and it was like off the charts. So high, such extreme radiation, more than a cell phone, you know. And then here's this little tiny baby. It's just, anyway, I have to stop talking about that. I'm just going to get all emotional.
What about Bluetooth Where does Bluetooth fit into all of
Bluetooth
this?
is not good. Bluetooth, it puts off a lot of radiation. It does, a lot. Yep. So you want to keep it off on your computer, you want to keep it off on your phone. And, you know, what do you use it for? You know, I mean, get a speaker that has a wire if you're using it for wireless speakers, or, you know, I don't know what people use Bluetooth for. It seems to be just about everything now. You know, when you're buying appliances, don't buy smart appliances. If you buy a smart appliance, it means Wi-Fi. And you'll see the Wi-Fi symbol right on the appliances. And, you know, some of those things just emit all the time and you can't even turn them off. You know, why do you need Wi-Fi to connect to your ceiling fan? You know, yeah, that happened to I do testing. I go into homes with my instruments and I do, you know, EMF mitigation and testing. And I tested this one home and it's like, there was this massive, huge amount of radiation and we could not figure out where it was coming from. And then it ended up that it was coming from the ceiling fan, and the ceiling was like so high. We didn't even look up there and realize, oh, there's a ceiling fan up there. But the thing was pumping out so much Wi-Fi that it was like the whole house was getting, you know, off the chart readings just from that ceiling fan. So.
Okay, love. And I know that you don't want to go too much into 5G, but maybe you can just,
it's bad.
Someone's asked if it's stronger than Wi-Fi.
Is 5G stronger than Wi-Fi? It's not an accurate comparison. So how can I put it? The bad thing about 5G is that it brings the antennas close. It brings the antennas closer to us, to our homes. If you buy a 5G enabled cell phone, it is the equivalent of holding a cell tower in your hand. That is not an exaggeration. And 5G small cells are being deployed, you know, 15 feet outside people's bedroom windows. They're deploying them on streetlights and you know, the small cells oftentimes use millimeter waves, which is a different part of it's a higher frequency, and it's connected with some very nasty health effects. 5G, bad. Don't buy a 5G enabled phone, whatever you do. Don't buy anything 5G. It's really, Arthur Furstenberg, author of The Invisible Rainbow, says if 5G gets fully deployed, we have 5 years left of existence. It's particularly harmful for insects. The pollinators will be destroyed. Food chain, it's bad. Sorry. Next.
I think this is it, love. I think people.
That's it?
I think
well, we have to end on a happier note than that. We can't end on 5G.
No, only that, yeah, it's true. We can't end on 5G. I agree. What can we end on, love?
Just that there are very simple steps that you can take to create a much healthier, safer environment inside your home. And, you know, airplane mode is your friend. It's very easy to do. Please do that. Get yourself a corded landline. It's not that expensive. You're worth it. You know, forward your calls. You know, use a computer that's hardwired. And, you know, if you want to watch movies on your phone, you know, just get your Ethernet connection together. Yeah, these are simple steps that you can take. I mean, even just going in and out of airplane mode, keeping the phone off your body, you know, not holding it next to your brain, simple things you can do. And you know what, if you have your phone in airplane mode, you can still listen to music that's on your phone. You can still use your alarm. You know, you can use all of the clock options. Some people think that you have to have your phone on in order to use it as an alarm. And so they end up sleeping with their cell phone either in bed with them or next to their head on a nightstand. You can put your phone in airplane mode and you will have your alarm. It works fine. It doesn't need, you can go through all of the pictures that you have on your phone, you know, in airplane mode.
Sorry, I have a question regarding the Bluetooth. When you were saying earbuds, the new phones don't even have earbuds. You have to have Bluetooth, like the newest brand. You have to have Bluetooth for it to. Seriously, seriously, the new models, like the old ones.
You know, just like buy an old phone, buy an older phone. That's all I can say.
It's a bad connection. Yeah, it's true.
You just buy an older phone. I mean,
but
a lot of this is you know, could be very consumer driven, because if we stop buying this stuff, they're going to stop making it. They have to. If nobody's buying it, they won't make it. There's no market, you know, and so just don't buy it. Really.
The earphone, like the earbuds are like, these are better with wire than the Bluetooth, obviously.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And again, the best is the hollow tube. And, you know, if you want to shop for this stuff, a store that I recommend, which I have no connection with whatsoever, I'm not making money off this, you guys. It's called lessemf.com, lessemf.com. And they have all varieties of, you know, hollow tube headsets. They have adapters. They have all kinds of things.
Is that an online?
Yeah.
Online?
lessemf.com. Yeah, that's online.
Okay.
Deborah, thank you so much. It was super informative, a little scary, quite a little reality check. I think, speaking for myself anyway, and I don't imagine I'm alone, we've become complacent, I guess. Like, there's just, it's so much a part of life, daily life. It's become so normalized that I have forgotten to really pay attention. And so I'm grateful that I have kept my phone in airplane mode most always. But I clearly have quite a number of things yet to do to be safer in this onslaught of increased radiation in our world.
Yeah, we need to get your computer hardwired.
Yes, we do.
That's the next thing. And it's
true.
It's not hard at all. It's quite easy, and you'll be so happy because you're just going to have faster, more stable, safer, more secure. Somebody said they use a flip phone. That's really funny. I'm so proud of you.
That's
Barbara.
me. It's me. Yeah. That's me. And I've got a laptop which is new, and I'm really listening to what you're saying, Deborah, about the ways that I can protect that. But I am really resistant. I don't like using a lot of, my fingers all over the screen and all of that stuff. So I'm keeping the old phone going, but I still think it's probably useful not to put it next to my head, because I can feel it heating up when I'm talking.
Yes, and they all do. They all do that, especially if you're talking on the phone when you're driving. They'll heat up even faster, because the phone has to work harder because it's going from antenna to tower, and it's got to ramp up in power when the signal gets weaker. And it's really one of the worst things you can do is drive in a car and, make a phone call with the thing next to your head.
Or even sitting still in the car, I'm sure, which is safer with traffic, but obviously really, really good to think about anywhere in a car.
Yeah.
So Deborah, just to wrap it up, could you direct us to your website at all? I know you've got all kinds of resources, and
you can go to radiationpage.com. That'll take you to the page on my website with I've got some videos, YouTube videos there, and some a document that you can download. I mean, I know this is a huge learning curve. I'm assuming that most people on this call probably eat healthy. You probably shop organic and watch what you eat. You maybe take supplements. Maybe you're careful about water. Having clean, purified water. And this is the equivalent of learning all of that all at once. you know, those changes you were allowed to make kind of slowly over time because you got a little bit of information on this and that, and you could kind of integrate it into your life. And, you know, here we are, boom. It's like, this is what you need to do to be healthy. Here is all of it, all at once, all together. And I know that it's overwhelming, but it really is. I mean, it's very similar to making choices about what you're putting in your body, like food and water and supplements, because this radiation is going into your body. It's going into your body. Your skin is not a barrier, you know.
So do you have a YouTube? You said that the younger generation, like my son who's in 20s, watch to what
That's
you
a
just...
good question. I have how to safety proof your cell phone. I need to update it though. I don't know if
I
you'd
think
like
this
that
is
one.
great for the new generation because we are, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't use a lot of those things, but I would
know
love
the
to
younger
share
kids,
your...
it's very, very disconcerting, scary. I'm actually collaborating with a couple of colleagues on the East Coast right now, and we're putting together a little course on these things, and it's video based. And you know, I guess since you guys are now on my email list, I can email you and let you know when I think we're going to launch that course in mid-January. I think that's our goal. So that would be better for him because I mean, the YouTube videos I need to update them.
Well, so from my point of view,
I do have 8 electronics. Yeah. What is it called? 8 household electronics that are hurting you. He might want to watch that. That's me and a master electrician going around my home, and he's testing different things, and we're talking about this stuff. That might be interesting to him.
8
household electronics that are hurting you. There's an episode 1 and episode 2, or part 1, part 2. That's on my website. It's also on my YouTube channel.
Okay.
Check it out. You might like those.
Thank
They're
you.
short.
Yes.
You know, they're very short, but there's a lot of action.
Thank you. Yeah.
There's a lot of footage of me going, "What? Help!"
That's how you get the younger generation.
Yeah.
And so meters, Deborah, you've recorded the whole session tonight.
Yes, I should end it, shouldn't I?
Sure. And then we'll be able to send it out.
Yes.
Please feel free to email me.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to stop the recording. I appreciate it.